Well, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to give an update on the Tampa Bay chemtrail update. Update on the Tampa Bay chemtrail report, and a little update on my theory or my idea that since the Mueller Report exonerated Donald Trump from a lot of the Russian collusion, delusion, absurd nonsense, that things automatically changed. There's been some changes at my job that a lot of people are talking about that are a direct result of this. Donald Trump has taken victory laps around the country. A lot of things are going to change now because he doesn't have this 20-pound ball hanging, attached to his ankle. Hopefully, he's going to be merciless in his pursuit and his prosecution of the criminals that brought this delusion to the forefront and kept it on the forefront for so long. And the criminals that have tried to assassinate him, I think as of this week, it's 15 times. I heard that they neutralized a 15th assassination attempt this week. A lot of the attempts, of course, have been sort of laughable and absurd, but they just keep trying. One of the most notable attempts, from what I understand, was one made by the British government, of all places, believe it or not, and it involved a submarine off the coast of Virginia, a submarine and a what's that missile called? Patriot missile or something like that. They were going to take out the White House. They were going to take out Trump and Pence at the same time, and that would make Nancy Pelosi the president. So, of course, Nancy Pelosi is a great friend of the deep state. Mike Pence is reportedly a good friend of the deep state as well, but, I don't know. From what I understand, Trump did not want Mike Pence to be his vice president. He wanted Mike Flynn to be his president, but, a president is not a dictator. They can't just do whatever they want to do. They have forces at work that are out of their control. But anyway, it's just like the kings. There was no such thing as there was never no such thing as an all-powerful king. Kings were restrained by their courts, and they were restrained by other regional forces, by other kings, basically. So, outside of God Himself, there has never been anybody who was whose power was absolute. So, anyway, I just wanted to give this update. It's day 3 now that I've been making note of amazing chemtrail-free days in Tampa Bay. But I do have to issue a couple caveats, but or at least one caveat. Before I issue that caveat, I do want to say that one detail I failed to mention day before yesterday when I was talking about the unbelievably clear day was the fact that not only was the sky clear, but it was so unbelievably pleasant. Just the air felt clear, clean, and it smelled so clear and so clean. I got home and my fiance had all the windows open, and I made the comment, I'm like, wow, we haven't had a day like this in months, forever. Not forever, but since I really started taking the time to make a note of things. And, she agreed with me. She said, yeah, I know. that's why I have the windows open. And it was just, the thing that I really noticed was the smell. It just smelled so clean, and it smelled amazing. Compared to the last, 6, 8, 10 months since I started making these videos and making a mental note, and a video note for that matter, but a mental note of the quality of the atmosphere. I didn't really realize when I was talking about all the chemtrails in the sky that the possibility that they were also sort of, that there was an experiential, tactile, noticeable effect on the ground, where we live. And I still can't really affirm that with absoluteness right now, but so you could just say it was a coincidence that I noticed the clear skies up above on the one hand, and the amazing feel and smell of the air on the ground on the other hand. Maybe it was just a coincidence that they both happened on the same day, or maybe there's a relationship, you know. So that was a detail I failed to mention in my last video, but so I'm mentioning it now. Now I'm going to issue the caveat on my theory that since the Mueller Report exonerated Trump, that these chemtrails have stopped. In fact, this morning on the way to work, there was pretty substantial chemtrail activity in the sky. But you can see now in the afternoon it's all cleared up. Now this is very unusual. Over the past several months, those planes were flying basically all day long and just keeping the sky completely trashed and covered and blanketed with what I call a pollution blanket. And with people who know more about chemtrails than I do, say, you know, it's the aluminum oxide, the strontium oxide, and the sulfuric. Al Gore on the Ellen DeGeneres show said it was sulfuric acid. I think he mentioned a couple of other chemical elements as well, or chemical compounds as well. So anyway, it just seems like the chemtrails have stopped. But like I said, it's a tug of war for Donald Trump between himself and his allies and the deep state. The deep state are the bureaucrats that stay in power regardless of who's the president. You know, so their attitude, again, I've said this before, but their attitude, the bureaucrats' attitude is, hey, look, buddy, you're here for 4 years, 8 years max. I was here before you got here, and I'll be here when you're gone. That's their attitude. So they just keep on going with a business as usual policy as much as is possible. And if you've ever worked in any type of an institutional setting, corporate setting, charitable setting, local or state or national government setting, NGO setting, whatever type of institutional setting that you've worked, you know that there are people that get away with murder just by keeping their heads, just by keeping their heads down, basically, just by staying below the radar of the people in charge. So that's what the deep state is, to the best of my understanding. It's also foreign. Well, let's put it this way: these multi-administration bureaucrats. What happens is they get infiltrated by foreign interest. So you have people that make decisions about pharmaceuticals, people that make decisions about infrastructure, people who make decisions about energy, people who make decisions about, really just an array, a very wide array of societal concerns in these bureaucratic positions that affect all of our lives, obviously, and they might be, on the payroll of our enemies, more or less. 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 degrees of separation removed, so it's not obvious. But 6 might be extreme, because they say that everybody in the world is related to each other, or everybody in the world, is related to each other by a maximum of 6 degrees of separation. So 6 might be a little bit extreme. So maybe 2 or 3 degrees of separation, from the actual, representative of the enemy force. But nevertheless, they are the enemy. They're a representative, a few degrees separated. So that's kind of the operating theory here for how these things continue even after the chief executive in the White House outlaws them, or says that he wants them to be outlawed, or directs or commands them to be outlawed. Nevertheless, they continue because they have people out there that are just continuing to do whatever they've been doing for the last 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. Because this geoengineering, climate control stuff started like back in basically World War II. And who knows, maybe it's been going on since the Ming Dynasty, for all we know. We don't know. But, the government controls education, and they tell you what they want you to know. So you don't really know what's going on. You just know what they want you to know, So, anyway, it's pretty interesting, though, that we've had such a dramatic diminishing immediately following the release of the Mueller scam, the Mueller Report scam, the Mueller scam report, the criminal inquiry where the inquirers are the criminals as opposed to the people being inquired upon. You know, it's pretty interesting, I think. Now, everything can shift in a week, you know. Things can change overnight in terms of who's in control and, you know, who has what degree of power, you know. Maybe next week Donald Trump will lose his footing, you know, metaphorically speaking, and, you know, who knows. But it's pretty interesting. It's an interesting coincidence, if that's all that it is, that immediately following the Mueller report, we had this dramatic change in the chemtrail activity. Interestingly, I was watching my friend, not my friend, but a guy I know, a guy that I follow, I should say. I have exchanged emails with him, so I guess I could say that I know him a little bit. But look at that. Look how clear. I mean, there's not a single chemtrail anywhere. There's a little bit of haze, but that could be the remnant of the residual from what they were doing this morning. Apparently, it goes away pretty quick. I mean, I've wondered, you know, does it take a week to go away, a month, a day, an hour, or how long? But, you know, based on the fact that it was pretty heavily, the sky was pretty heavily marred this morning from the chemtrail activity, and now it's perfectly clear. That seems to indicate that maybe it goes away pretty quick, you know. So apparently the human species, Homo sapiens, are really hard to kill. I mean, because they have to work really hard to sabotage our environment and our lifestyle. Of course, we don't know what they succeed at, because like John F. Kennedy said, both their successes and their failures are secret, you know. But anyway, I think we have to just, you know, continue to sort of, what's the word? We have to continue to, you know, vacillate, I guess, from one opinion to the other, between one possibility to another possibility. That's kind of, you know, it's like balancing. You know, you have to balance to the left, balance to the right. Pretty soon you get so good at it that nobody can even tell that you're going from the left to the right, but you're just controlling it in micro amounts. So I think that's really kind of the secret to having a balanced point of view, is as opposed to locking into one interpretation or locking into one point of view, is to continually entertain, you know, every available point of view. You know, because like you said, you got to move your left foot, then your right foot, then your left, right. You know, you've got to operate in multiple dimensions, I guess, multiple frameworks, multiple systems, multiple senses, you know, simultaneously all the time, you know. So the key is, I think, just to avoid being locked. I'm holding my phone outside the car now, so I hope I'm dropping. But I don't know, it's not as good as it was day before yesterday, but it's still pretty good. And I just realized that the microphone is probably picking up all that wind if I hold it outside the car like that, so I'll bring it back in. What do I want to say here? I'm going on, rambling on forever and ever. I just want to say that is pretty interesting, and it's going to be even more interesting to see what happens in the coming weeks. My prediction is that if Trump continues to gain his footing, continues to be aggressive and proactive, and knocking down the deep state, locking up these pedophiles, locking up these sex predators, these human traffickers, all related to the Clinton Foundation, the Bush family, that the whole chemtrail issue is going to be a foregone conclusion. It's going to be a non-issue. That's the foregone conclusion. It's a non-issue. And when we try to tell people that, you know, there was a point in time when they just completely trashed the atmosphere with aluminum oxide, strontium oxide, barium oxide, that's the one I couldn't think of before, barium oxide, sulfuric acid, and all kinds of radioactive, poisonous, aerosolized compounds. They're going to look at us like we've got 3 heads. We're going to like, what are you talking about? Why would they do that? And we're going to start the whole conversation, not even going to, it's just like, you're not going to be able to get anywhere with that conversation, because it's hard to get anywhere with the conversation now when people can look up in the sky and see it, right? They look up in the sky and they see these chemtrails, these trails that these planes leave behind, that after they leave them behind, they persist for hours and days, and they grow to exponential factors of their original size, and they say, oh no, that's just water vapor. That's what they do now. Imagine what they're going to do when they can't even see anything. It's going to be, so it's crazy the way human psychology works. And it's crazy and amazing and really kind of astounding how they exploit it and how they manipulate it. Tragic as well. So, I know what I was going to say. I was going to say also I was watching a video by the guy that I follow on YouTube called named Daniel John Lee, and he's in Juneau, Alaska. And he talks all about human trafficking and ritual SRA, which is satanic ritual abuse. And he actually has SRA victims on his YouTube channel and interviews them, and they interview him, and vice versa, back and forth. And he says, no, it's not what he says. It's the fact that the other day I was watching his video, and he has talked about chemtrails in the past himself. And while you're watching his videos, when he goes outside, because he does some of his videos outside in Juneau, you can see the chemtrails. But he was doing one the other day, and his sky was exactly like our sky. It was perfectly clear. So that's on the other side of the continent, obviously, so I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm going to stop talking now because I've been rambling long enough. God bless you. Thank you for watching. And stay tuned for, we have to name this era the post-Russian collusion era. The PRDCE. Okay, that's a first stab. We got to come up with something better than that. But PRDCE. I wish that I had enough initiative to keep a log, a before and after. I think it would be very interesting if somebody could take up that challenge. But hopefully these video logs will serve that purpose to some degree. Again, thank you for watching. God bless you. Goodbye.